Hey, welcome to another episode of Being Spiritual at RU with Father Scott and Matt. I'm Pastor Matt. So we're glad to have you here. We coming off the stories series, which actually got some good traction online. So if you're watching, continue to like, subscribe, share. We'd love to continue to interact with you, ask questions. We'd love to answer any questions you might have as well. But today we want to talk about Ash Wednesday. We're recording this on Ash Wednesday. Hopefully I get it maybe posted today. If not, we'll be into Lent and that whole season of just fasting and prayer and repentance. And so we want to talk a little bit about it. Last night, Scott had a Mardi Gras pancake. What do you?
Pancake dinner, just
What you
Mardi
guys
Gras.
did. Yeah.
Yep. And well attended and lots of hungry students. So it was great. And it's one of the ways to party up before the fasting begins. So
kind of your last hurrah to get it in.
Yeah. Although in theory, you're supposed to eat up all the meat in your house or whatever, but we go out and buy the meat. So it's not like it used to be. So.
Yeah. I entered into one last thing for my Lenten fast too late last night. So I think we kind of all do that. Like it's kind of like, you're starting a diet on Monday, so Sunday you eat all your favorite things, and
Right.
Start
last
that
chance.
Yeah. And so Ash Wednesday. So let's talk about that first. So, What is the purpose of Ash Wednesday? I think sometimes people don't actually know.
Well, it marks the beginning of Lent, and we put ashes on our faces. And one of the cool things that a lot of people don't realize is these ashes are made from last year's or previously used palms. They are burnt in some kind of bowl or some kind of container and then crushed and ground up. So these are actually the palms we used last year. It's recycling, reuse, recycle, renew. And it is a time to, because as Lent is, a time to sort of reflect on our mortality, but also our sort of rebellious nature, our sinfulness, if you will. So Ash Wednesday, some people, when the clergy makes the sign, puts the ashes on your forehead in the sign of the cross, some will say, remember your dust, remember your ash, to ash you shall return, that kind of thing. Others will say, turn from sin and follow Jesus. So some people put a more penitential sort of note on it, and other people help just say, let's remember life is short, we are mortal. So there's both of those things going on.
Yeah, I think the importance is the kind of the mourning our death, mourning our mortality, that, putting our dependence upon Jesus, I think is important. Like we're repenting from the old way and walking in the new way. And so the whole idea of a fast, I always explain it this way, especially to younger folks, is like, when people think of a fast, they think of fasting from food. And kind of when we fast, we'll have those hunger pains, we'll have a desire to eat. And those are reminders to us to why we're fasting, to turn to Jesus. And so a fast should be something that we feel. So then when we're tempted or we have a desire to do it, then we're reminded that we're pulled to Jesus. And so, all right, we're going to take this time now rather than scrolling in Facebook or, a lot of people fast from social media.
Right.
I'm going to pray. I'm going to repent. I'm going to, look to Jesus during those times instead. So it's a good way to help us focus on Christ and put our dependence upon him. And so Ash Wednesday is kind of like that significant start of that moment of we need Jesus. So I think for me, when I wear the cross on Ash Wednesday, it's about letting people know, myself know, that I need Jesus, that I'm utterly dependent upon him for life. And so that's important, I think.
Right. Yeah. And literally, the idea of repentance, the Greek term, literally means to change your mind. So there's that sense of, a lot of this is about awareness. And a lot of this is when you think about what is something that has too much control in my life, social media is a good example because we pick up our phones without even thinking about it. It's so attached to our hand.
Mhm.
Other people give up chocolate or alcohol or something just to sort of put it in its proper place, to
Mhm.
say this should not be controlling my life. Other people will add something to their life. Maybe they'll walk every day, or they will try to do acts of charity. They'll try to do outreach, or they'll work for a soup kitchen or a food pantry or something. Again, it's off the norm. It's something that you're leaving the way you were living. You're kind of putting that aside and living in a different way, and it is a way to
Oh.
prepare ourselves for Easter. We're actually echoing the experience of Jesus in the wilderness. He fasted for 40 days. When he's tempted by Satan, there's a lot of stuff going on right at the beginning of his ministry, the temptations of Jesus, the temptation in the desert. And it was 40 days. So that's where we got this idea way back when. It's a really old custom, again, to fast like Jesus. But
Yeah, that 40 days, people ask God, why 40 days? And I think that's a simple answer right there, because
yeah,
that's what Jesus did.
yep,
So the church decided 40 days. And if you actually do, I think this is important to know too, because there's going to be some people that are going to count the days. And there's actually more than 40 days. And I think there is a reason, a purpose for that is, so we go 40 days without Sunday. And it's important to remember that the church is always resurrection people, even as we remember our mortality, our
right,
death,
right,
that we're still resurrection people. So Sundays are still Resurrection Sunday during Lent. And, the Lenten fast doesn't happen on Sunday, although I think for most people, it's good to just keep it going because it's
yeah,
hard to get back on track if you get off track a little bit. But that was the idea, that we still celebrate the resurrection on Sunday, and then it does end on Palm Sunday, kind of the bookend. We use the palms, the ashes from the palms, and then we celebrate our King Jesus on Palm Sunday, and then we enter into Holy Week. Again, I think if you stop your fast, then most people want to continue it till Easter.
mm-hmm.
I do. I continue my Lenten fast through Easter, but you're kind of entering into a new thing. You're entering into Holy Week and
Mm-hmm.
after Palm Sunday, and remembering. I think you would know this better than me, Father Scott, about the liturgy. But on Palm Sunday, I believe there's like a liturgy of the palms in the morning, and then there's a liturgy of the Passion in the evening
Mm-hmm.
in the liturgical calendar.
Mm-hmm.
So even on Palm Sunday, there's like an ending to the Lenten season, and then there's a beginning to Holy Week. So Palm Sunday serves kind of both
Mm-hmm.
ending and beginning for
Yep.
different seasons of our calendar.
Yeah, it's the most important week, certainly, of the Christian year. Um, and because so much happens from Palm Sunday, and each day, and when we get to Holy Week, we could talk about this, but each day has a name, and each day has sort of a tradition to do. And some of them are really kind of cool, but mostly we know about Palm Sunday, Maundy, Thursday, Good Friday, and then Easter. But every day of the week of Holy Week has a tradition. So, but yeah, we'll talk about that more when we get to Holy Week, which is about 5 weeks away. So,
Yeah,
but
40 plus days.
40
So
plus days. So, but yeah, it's again, a lot of this is about awareness and participating in a really old ritual that Christians have been doing for thousands of years, at least probably 2,000 years roughly. And this year is special because um, on Easter, both the Western Church and the Eastern Orthodox Church celebrate Easter on the same day this year. That only happens like once every 25 years. It doesn't happen very often. So it's been a while, because usually they're a week after us. The
yeah.
Eastern, like the Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox, Ukrainian, they are about a week after us. So, but this year it just happens we count our calendars differently. Their lunar, we're solar, or vice versa. I don't remember how it worked, but yeah, this year it actually falls where we actually are celebrating exactly the same. So it's really a good year to, be aware of the different Christian traditions out there, and there are many.
Yeah. And I find it curious, Ash Wednesday, going to our evangelical roots a bit, maybe you come from a tradition that doesn't always celebrate Ash Wednesday. I mean, I had a friend who asked me to help him move some stuff yesterday. And he initially asked me to move today, Ash Wednesday. And I said, well, I can't, I got Ash Wednesday. And so after were done yesterday, he was asking me about Ash Wednesday. He's a Christian. We spent a lot of time in ministry. We worked together for a long time at an evangelical church. And he was asking me, well, what do you actually do? I was like, well, we impose ashes. Like it was like new concept for him, but it was something that made sense to him. I think Ash Wednesday is one of those liturgical things that does make sense. And I think when people become aware of it, it becomes easier. I can remember at one evangelical church, we started an Ash Wednesday service that was really well attended. We called it an Ash Wednesday prayer service, and we did not impose ashes, but I think it had some resonance with people that it made a lot of sense to start kind of the Lenten season. I don't know what your upbringing was like with Lent. Mine was pretty sparse.
I grew up in the United Methodist Church. My father was the pastor, and he loved liturgy. So as a kid, I believe we did Ash Wednesday, but it wasn't a big emphasis. Mostly Holy Week was a big emphasis for us. But Ash Wednesday, my father's deceased now, so I can't ask him. I could ask my mother, but if we did ashes, if it was during the day, of course, we were in school when I was a kid. So, but I don't know. But I remember that he loved liturgy, and he loved any chance to have a sort of a high church moment, he would. So, but it's, and for a lot of traditions, it is sort of optional. It's not mandatory, but we learn from other traditions, and I think it's really I think we need to learn and be open to learn.
Yeah, I think this season, like, there's a lot of, in evangelical traditions, Baptist traditions, there is a lot of pushback on different liturgical stuff. That's too I get sometimes this is too Catholic and those sorts of things. Like, some people that I grew up with is probably freaked out that I'm wearing a collar, or the robes and all that stuff. But I think Lent is a low-hanging fruit that we all can come into, because the idea of fasting, I think every Christian tradition is fine, teaches, right? And it's fine with. And so I can remember as a kid, our church would do and teach different Lenten type fasts. And we would start on Ash Wednesday. And so I remember as a kid, fasting from sugar and junk food and those sorts of things, which a lot of kids do. Like, my kids, that's typically what they choose. Although a couple of years ago, I didn't realize it, because my one son, he fasted from video games.
Wow.
And we didn't really realize it till halfway through. Like, why aren't you playing your video games? He's like, well, it's my Lenten fast,
Cool.
And he stuck with it. He really did.
That's nice.
And then he got to Easter, though, and he was so funny. He's like, finally, I can play video games again.
But it's nice. I mean, he really put, some thought into it, and really sounds like he followed through with it. Yeah, that's really that's a really cool idea. And like I said, sometimes it's good to replace what you've given up with something more positive. It just
Yeah.
depends. There are many books written. There are devotionals you can read. I've got some I could give students if they want to get a devotional, just something you can read during Lent. Um, yeah, so it's just a time again to think about our shortcomings, our sinfulness, if you will, and then also think about our mortality. And hunger, like you were saying earlier, is a sign of mortality. We have to eat or we'll die. And
Mhm.
so it's a reminder, hunger pains. And if it's a pain, not necessarily for food, but for what we've given up, we're like, ooh, I really want to play a video game. Ooh, I really want chocolate right now. Um, that again is teaching us to be aware of our vulnerabilities and our weaknesses, because there are so many things that can get in the way, of living, I would say, a godly life or a Christ-like life.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, some people don't know what to fast from. So I think that's a good question. Like, what's preventing me from living a godly life or being more like
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, and will help me focus on God
Mm-hmm.
more. You know, um, I gave my church a bunch of different ideas. I liked your idea, of replacing
Mm-hmm.
something like, um, you know, deciding, and that's a good way to distract your mind and focus your mind on something else too. Is like, all right, rather than after work doom scrolling on social media or after class, I'm gonna
Right,
go for a
right,
walk,
right.
or
Read a
I'm gonna
read a
read
book.
this book.
Yeah,
That,
find a book
yeah,
or a series of
yeah,
books you want to read. you know
yeah,
yeah, do something positive. Don't just sit there and go, oh, I miss doing blank. you know
yeah,
Find something positive to do. Again, maybe help somebody, do a volunteer, do something that you know basically can shift your attitude and your thoughts and your concentration away from the thing that had too much emphasis in your life, too much control, if you will. um, yeah, just learning balance. It's learning, awareness.
yeah. No, that's good. It's one of my favorite seasons, to be honest. I enjoy the Lenten season. Um, I enjoy this day. It's the focus of it is healthy, and it's a good rhythm to get yourself in. So if you haven't gotten into this rhythm, I encourage you. And you have the Canterbury House here. You could reach out to both Scott or I, but you have a physical house you could enter into
Mm-hmm.
regularly. I know Scott and I are planning, a couple studies
Mm-hmm.
throughout Lent that hopefully we could make happen and see you guys. And yeah, we'd love to have the
Mm-hmm.
conversation about your journey, and start with something that you don't have to start hard. Start with something that's like tangible you could do.
Yep.
Um, if it's your first time,
Yep.
especially
And
that.
the chapel's always open for
Yeah,
prayer if people want to come in and just have private prayer. Or Pastor Matt and I, either one of us or both of us, would be glad to just sit and chat if you want to kind of debrief or talk about what you're going through, what you're experiencing. We're happy to do that because we've been there. And
yeah,
yeah, so it's a good time to do some. And that's we're very much, like you were saying earlier, kind of Catholic when it comes to this. It's a good time to actually do a formal confession. There's actually a
mm,
form of it in the Book of Common Prayer where you can basically just kind of get things off your chest, things that you have done that you regret, or ways that there are also the sins of omission, as they say, things you could have done, good things that you haven't done. So it's a good time to just maybe do a formal session with a clergy person. It could be with a friend or a lay person, but definitely clergy. This is one of the reasons we're here, is to you know offer spiritual guidance. So, but yeah, it's an easy. And I, like I said, I can show you, or send you home with a prayer book and show you where it is. You don't have to have another person there. You can just do it yourself. So it's a good
mm,
time to do a
yeah,
formal, you know, time of confession.
yeah. That is a good point. And if you've never done that before, it's a non-threatening moment, and it's a good, safe place to get something off your chest. I mean, doing it by yourself is good, but also I think I know for me, when I share it with somebody else, like the weight off my shoulders is a lot
Yep.
greater. And obviously, you can share as little or as much detail
Right.
as you want, but sometimes just speaking something can really be healing.
Absolutely.
So I would definitely concur that that would be a good practice during
Hmm.
Lent. Um, so yeah, as you can tell, we want you to participate in this journey of Lent, and so we hope that you do. And yeah, if you have any questions, thoughts, reach out. We love the dialogue. So have a great day.
Bye.
Happy
Yeah.
fasting.